over time kind of learning, don't have to just be the stereotypical man, but it's finding a balance between being the strength, the breadwinner, the hunter, the gatherer, but also being able to be someone who emotionally connects and who can access a little bit of the feminine side of them as well. So
hello everybody, Angel Santiago here once again. I'm the leadership and mindset specialist here at Freedom Practice Coaching, and today we continue the conversation about what does it mean to be a man in today's society. And today's guest is going to be the CEO of Freedom Practice Coaching. The last episode we spoke to the founder, Charles Webb. Today we're talking to the CEO, John Linton, and just to hear what he has to share from his perspective, from his upbringing. What is the focus? What does it mean to him? And to also ask, to impart some wisdom onto myself, into my own personal journey of growing up without that masculine example in my life. That doesn't mean I didn't have it, but it just probably wasn't necessarily the best, because I did have men in my life, but I'm talking about the family unit within your own home. And today's conversation is going to be with John Linton, and he'll be sharing his thoughts on what does it mean to be a man. This all started because I didn't grow up with a dad, right? So I have no idea. I wasn't modeled. I don't know what that's like. I don't know what it means to show up as a man, like a man, other than what I learned from what my mom taught me. So from your experience, from your perspective, from where you are in life today, what does it mean to be a man to you?
what does it mean to be a man? That's a really interesting question, because I think there's a lot of different ways to look at it, right? So I think there's the common perception that the man is the emotional rock and the baseline, and that's the way I try to live my life. But I also think there's some challenge to the stereotypical man, right? So if you look at the stereotypical man, it's be in charge, hunter-gatherer, never let him see you sweat, never let him see you cry. So to me, it's not so much about over time kind of learning, don't have to just be the stereotypical man, but it's finding a balance between being the strength, the breadwinner, the hunter, the gatherer, but also being able to be someone who emotionally connects and who can access a little bit of the feminine side of them as well. So I don't know that I'd look at it as a binary, what does it mean to be a man? I think it's what is it to be a good partner in a relationship, or a good father to your kid.
Like a man in each of those areas.
So a man in each of those areas. So, just from a personal experience, like as a father, right? So with my older two kids, I was definitely the stereotypical man. I was the punisher. I was the breadwinner. I worked my ass off. I coached a little bit here and there, but I never took the time to connect with them emotionally when they were young, right? So when their mom and I split, they were 10 and 12, and there was a huge void in our connection. And yes, I'd have them every other weekend, and I'd have them every Wednesday, but there was a lot of lack of understanding, resentment, and all these things that came from me being the stereotypical man and not being aware enough or secure enough to connect and be vulnerable emotionally with my kids. And that was a great learning experience for me, because it took me, kind of probably 5 years to reestablish that with my kids. I still, to this day, my kids are, my son is 26, going to be 27, and my daughter's 25 now. I still call them every day now. So it took that disruption in our family for me to realize that, wait a minute, being a man isn't necessarily all it's cracked up to be. Yes, you need some of those attributes. Yes, people like, or families and relationships like to have that one person that can be the man, right? That is stable, that is grounded, that is seen as the rock, that pushes everything forward. At the same time, if you fail to recognize those other attributes, those non-manly attributes, right, to be vulnerable, to share your weaknesses, to deal with your own shit, right, and communicate on a more emotional level, then I'm not so sure being a man outweighs, the connection.
And I really appreciate what you said, being a man in this aspect, being a man in this other aspect. So within the framework of being a man in a relationship, so what is a man to you there?
That's a work in progress.
Oh, completely.
So it used to mean, setting the tone, dominating, my way or the highway.
And that was probably around the same time when you were the typical dad.
Yeah.
Right? That's when you were being that way
That
as well.
is. So to say I truly understand what that means today, would be an overstatement. So I'm still in my journey, as I think probably we all are for our whole lives. But what it meant to me back then was making money, putting a roof over the head, making sure people are financially taken care of. Your partner too, right? So it's family and partner. I didn't really see much difference, and I wasn't very emotionally connected. It was more fear-based connection, right? It was all, you have to be here for me. You can't do that. I'm not open to whatever it may be. But that's evolved, right? And now it's much more focused on how can I still have some of those attributes,
Right.
But also understand it's about meeting both people's needs and understanding, what needs, wants, and desires are, and trying to figure out how to come to a common place where the most of those are met as possible.
What do you feel your dad instilled in you? Like, what do you feel like as the masculine figure in your home, what do you feel his focus was for you? Like, what did you feel he instilled in you the most about being a man?
So interesting. My dad and I didn't connect at all emotionally, which is probably what I got modeled from.
Makes sense, yeah.
But my dad, went to work, put a roof over our head. He was solid. He was the Punisher. He wasn't. He's a good guy. And my dad and I have developed a great relationship. But I would call our relationship business. So it was transaction based, right? It wasn't an exchange of emotion. It was, he provided a framework, he provided the finances, he provided the roof, and it was very transactional.
Got it. Today, with how the evolution that you're on, because I agree with you, we're all on a journey of evolution, and we're all trying to figure out what's the healthiest version of me that I can become.
Sure.
Right? Someone like me, because I'm sure there's other guys out there like that. Because, would you agree that there's a gap? That there's a gap in masculine presence in the house, especially after the divorce boom and all that kind of stuff. Like that, there's a gap.
Yeah, I think there's a gap. There's a gap. There's gaps all around, right? So there's gaps in the masculine, quote unquote, presence in the house. But there's also, so there seems to be extremes, right? So you've got the extreme masculine that was probably modeled much more historically from my perspective. It's, woman, for lack of better analogy, barefoot and pregnant and suppressed, and then you had the dominant male, and that was accepted by society at that time, right? And now you've got much more independent thinking, liberated women that want to contribute. So there's two ends of the spectrum. You've got this dominating, stereotypical kind of Neanderthal male concept, which is I'm going to dominate and you do this. And then you've got the other side, which is the people that swing the other end of the pendulum, that, okay, I'm going to give all of that up, right? And be the emotional supportive. And we've all seen this too, where it's almost as if they don't identify with being male at all. It's there as a servant, right? And
Interesting.
and I think just finding that balance is the thing that we struggle to do. So, we can have women be independent and strong, but still be comfortable in their femininity and have that taken care of, right, without being stepped on by the dominant male,
Right.
but still having some of those male attributes that contribute, that give them the comfort or whatever they're looking for in their wants and needs, and vice versa. And men can have those traditionally male, roles, but shift it to also understand, a little bit of the feminine themselves, and what do they need emotionally, and how do they open up, and how do they explore growth and attributes that might not have been focused on so much when you're in that hunter-gatherer mode.
Right. I love that. If you run into someone like me, which I'm sure there's others out there, and then hopefully somebody will gain a lot from this conversation, but if you run into someone like me, someone that didn't have that balance or that contrast of like, okay, this is what dad does, this is what mom does, okay, like my conversation with Charlie yesterday, the day before, it was very clear to me that I didn't get to see, like, oh, that wasn't modeled to me. Like, a man steps into the situation and does that.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't get that. So if you meet someone like me out there, and you are talking to someone like me, because you're talking to me, right? What would be one thing that you could say, hey, listen, if I were to focus on something for your own growth, in terms of this particular aspect, like, what would that be from your perspective?
In regard to being a man, being in the workplace, being a father, being a partner, which aspect? Because they're all kind of a little bit different.
They're all a little bit different. I would say in the family, like the family man, which includes children, parent, and then the relationship, like the family man.
Yeah. So to say, if I were to meet somebody that didn't have a father, and what advice would I give them? I can't say there'd be a standard piece of advice.
Correct.
Because I think it's all dependent on the individual. I happen to know you a little bit. So I think that my advice to you, having gotten to know you a little bit, would be, don't be afraid. I think the story that I didn't have a father, therefore I didn't have that modeled, there's certainly an aspect of that is true, right? And being submissive to your mother, right?
Correct.
And not seeing that, I understand all of that, but I also know you're a very aware person. So I think probably a lot of those attributes, and they're inside of you, and you probably even have tendencies and feelings, but you have learned to, wait a minute, I've got to put this person's needs above mine, and never really did the work to figure out, okay, why am I pushing these things down? Is it simply because I was raised in that environment, or how do I become aware of them and become more of who I am? Because I don't think you're not a man.
Right.
I mean, I think you're very much a guy's guy. And you've got the ability to connect and be a great dad and a great partner and all of those things. And at times you spend so much time putting other people's needs above your own, you sacrifice yourself. So I don't think you do enough self-care and work on yourself to figure out, how can I be who I need to be with my partner and my family.
That's good.
So I think it's just it's not that you need to change who you are or be something you're not.
Right.
I think you need to explore further who you are, that those attributes have been pushed down because of that environment. And I think they're all within you, and I think you've even expressed a lot of them to me in frustration, or this is where you get frustrated, but your tendency is like, okay, how do I not deal with that? How do I not let that frustrate me? Instead of, how do I figure out what my need is, and how do I apply that in a positive manner to create that family nucleus where you are able to be yourself as the man that you are.
Right. And I'm really glad that you brought up the different areas, because I do agree with that. I mean, I was having a conversation with one of our coworkers, and she's probably going to be the one kind of posting this and sharing it as she sees fit, or even if it's beneficial. But she said, I don't get that, because you do come across as a strong man. And Charlie said the same thing. Like, I wouldn't have known this had you not had this conversation with me, because you do come across as a complete man.
Mm-hmm. You do.
But it is because I'm in the workplace, or I'm in the business world, or I'm in my element, whatever that may be. But then you come into this other area, like family, relationship, right? And so maybe those are the areas that I need to.
So what's holding you back in those environments from being who you are here? Because the question that I would ask you is, how comfortable are you in your skin here on a scale of 1 to 10?
I would say like 10.
And how comfortable are you in your home, in your skin, on a scale of 1 to 10?
I would probably say like a 7.
Okay. So here that would indicate to me that here you're able to be you. You're able to take whatever role is natural to you, right? And at home, there's a hesitance to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So the question then is why?
In fact, Charlie said, the man in the home leads the home. Not from the perspective, I'm in charge, because
mm-hmm.
that goes back to the old, right, the ego-based macho man, right?
Sure.
But leadership, right? You step up. You lead your family. You lead your house.
Sure.
Right? And so last night that kind of stayed with me, and I was like, okay, how do I do that? How do I do that here? And so I started thinking, what do we have today? We got to go help some friends that are really struggling right now. They have puppies, like their golden doodle had 10 puppies, and they're trying to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And so we offer to go over there and cook them dinner and just be of support. Okay, so right now my partner's not home. So how do I step up and lead this right now, so that when she gets home, we can just leave? So I just went ahead and got everything ready. I got everything ready. I grabbed the things that I know I need to cook, take the meat, take the whatever I was going to do, just packed everything, got everything ready to go. My stepdaughter was taking a shower. I took more of a leadership role there. I was like, hey, we're leaving in 5 minutes. I need you to be ready. And when I shared that to my partner, she says, I did notice that. I did notice that everything was ready. I did notice that. And she says, what I noticed is that you get home from work and it's like, you take a sit back. And then I'm expected to lead in the home. And the only thing I can see where that comes from is because, like I was saying to Charlie, like Charlie's dad said, my dad taught me or mentored me into being on my own eventually. He knew that one day I was going to have to be on my own. But not my mom. My mom didn't want me to be on my own. My mom wanted to have me at home as long as possible.
Sure.
So at home,
You said that.
I sat back. Mom.
So you haven't been able to shift roles.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so that's kind of like, I really appreciate these conversations, because like you even said it earlier. You says, more than likely you've taken these qualities of a servant kind of a thing.
Yep.
And it was like, that hit home. That's like, oh shit, yeah, that's true. And instead, like Charlie says, step up, lead. How do you lead in the home? So that's kind of where I'm at. I mean, like I was telling you yesterday, this couple of days have been really transformative for me, and learning from the two of you. My partner was saying, I feel very blessed for you having those men in your life. Awesome. I think they have been instrumental for you. I think that you'd probably be like, I don't know if worst off is the word, but like you'd be missing some things, if it hadn't been for those men that you have in that office.
That's cool.
So I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me.
Anytime.
Thank you.
Awesome.